Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Face to Face here on the eKarting News YouTube channel. Great to have you with us. My name is, of course, Rob Howden. That's David Cole. It's off-season time to a certain extent. Obviously, we had a lot of the season, David, kind of wrapped up from, maybe let's say June all the way through to the end here. A lot of schedules getting moved. You wrapped up your travel season at the USPKS race, which was in October instead of being in July. Everything jammed together. But it's kind of come to an abrupt stop. Of course, Rock the Rio coming up this weekend. We'll look at that from our home offices. And then, of course, we head into 2021. Lots of content coming on eKarting News, though, because we got a lot of great guests lined up for face-to-face shows over the next couple of months.
Yeah, as you said, it's kind of the abrupt end because, again, there's no Super Nationals. I know we need a support group. We'll get that one going in a few weeks or a few days. But when that calendar turns over to November, that's when you kind of like, oh, I have such and such days until I'm in Vegas.
That's it.
And so we're kind of in that jealous realm of everybody who's in Vegas right now at Rock the Rio because it's the one Vegas event this year. There's not going to be two, just the one, but no Super Nationals. And for you, it's been 23 years of straight of going to Las Vegas, whether it be the rock pile, whether it be Sam Boyd Stadium, the Rio, the Westgate, obviously the four different locations that the event's been there. So it's kind of a shell shock to you probably more than anybody.
Yeah, once we get into the middle of November, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's going to be really weird because obviously I launched my first magazine back in 1998 there rather, when I launched Shifter Card Illustrated magazine. So we always had a party. Always, the big anniversary dinner every year in Las Vegas. It's going to be really, really weird not to have the Super Nats this year, but I think we're all crossing our fingers we can get back there again in 2021. Otherwise, David, I think it's been a great season. I think a lot of people have been pretty happy. The industry I've talked to have been happy with sales and the way the revenue's been, and it's been a good season. A lot of kart sales, a lot of races we've seen, David, record numbers. People wanting to get away from they're locked in for 4 months. They're getting that feel for what they missed, and that was being at the racetrack.
Yeah, it was a kind of that's what karting is, especially when I put a helmet on. It's kind of that you put the helmet on and you kind of take that break from reality.
Yeah. And
I think everybody needed that in 2020 and still do. I think that's why you're seeing such big numbers, all the events from June all the way till now. And, probably when we get to Daytona Kart Week and then the beginning of 2021, we're still going to see big numbers out there because people, as you said, they just want to get away from reality and being at the kart track is the easy way to do that.
Yeah, I think it's not so much even getting away from reality; it's getting back to our reality, which is getting back to going racing, which is what
racing reality. Yeah,
racing reality. That's right. Yeah. So, okay, so let's preface this. Let me kind of set the stage here. For those of you obviously know who we've got on the other side of the studio, getting ready to go. This is a really cool story. David mentioned that this would have been my 24th Super Nats. I've been doing this for a long time, since 1993, actually, when I started to be a journalist, but really focused on karting from 95 and on, so 25 years. And we talk about North Americans who have gone over to race in Europe and have had success in Europe. In my early days, it was Michael Valiente would go over on a number of occasions to run. Jason LaPointe went and raced as well, I believe, in the Formula C category at one point. And then it was Ronnie White. Then it was obviously Gary Carlton went over, probably the most successful and long-standing driver we had who has gone to Europe and worked with factories. David, we've seen a lot of drivers go over and play a little bit here, but man, big championship coming this year in the CIK FIA Karting Academy Trophy Series with Connor Zilisch. Connor's waiting to come on here in a couple seconds, but before we bring him on, dude, when we were trackside when he won the championship, man, that was just, I know you and I both high-fived each other. Man, that was super cool to see him get that title.
Yeah, it was a bit of a dramatic end to the program, and we'll get more into that with Connor. But yeah, just the fact that he won the opening 2 rounds was a great achievement, not only for him but for Team USA. Because again, as a countryman, it's kind of like the Olympics when we go to the Rotax Grand Finals. It's about the country, the team, and so anytime we see a driver going over to Europe, we're always behind them 100%. And whether it be Canada, whether it be US, we're always behind them. And so, as you said, it was just great to see just the progression over the 3 rounds of racing and to be able to come through as the first-time champion from the United States.
So, David, let's bring him in. Essentially, he is one of the best young junior drivers about to go senior here in North America. A tremendous talent. Let's bring in from Portimao, Portugal. Actually, it's like 10 o'clock there right now, I think. Connor Zilisch, thank you so much for joining us here on Face to Face.
Hey there, everyone. Yeah, I'm Connor Zilisch. It's good to be here.
Hey, great to have you with us, man. I know that we'll talk more about this coming weekend. Obviously, the World Championships this weekend. You're in Portimao for that. Let's just overall, before we kind of jump into it, has it kind of sunk in that you won the Karting Academy Trophy, or is it like that's a pretty big accomplishment?
Yeah, it's still sinking in, of course, but I got to move on and trying to focus on this next weekend here in Portimao. But speed looks good, so I'm hoping for some good results. Of course, the weather might not hold up, and it's rain's on the forecast, so we'll see.
Before we talk about the World Championships, let's go back a little farther in fact, because I want people to know who you are. We've been watching you come up through the ranks for the last number of years, in the mini categories into junior, all the races you've won, championships you've won. David can go over some of those later. I want to talk about the origin story, and I do this all the time in my Road to Indy stuff. I don't care who I talk to. How did you get into the sport? What was it? How old were you when you first saw a kart? Did you beg your dad for it? How did you get into karting?
So basically, my dad would go to the VIR, and he was a driver instructor on the weekends. So he would leave me and my two brothers at home. I was 4 years old, 7 years old, and 10, I think we were. Yep. So it was a handful for just my mom. So basically, my mom started arguing with my dad, and then my dad bought go-karts for us so that we could follow with him to the track. And we all started racing, and ever since then, it's just been a lifelong passion.
You've been into it. Where did you first start racing? Was there a club you started at, or?
Yeah, I started racing at CMP with Jam Motorsports, I think it was at the time. Right. On a Burrell.
That's awesome. That's cool, bud. All right, so that fast forward to where you are, you've won a bunch of championships. David, actually talk a little bit about what Connor's done, of course, this year as well in the Florida Winter Tour. Man, it's a pretty stacked resume.
Well, I think you got to go back to 2017, Rock Cup Super Final, Mini Rock winner, and then winning the Super Nationals just, a couple of weeks after that as well.
That's a big year.
And so then progressed into the junior ranks, and then 2019 finished 5th place in the junior rock category at the Rock Cup Super Final, and was the 2019 SCUSA Pro Tour K100 junior champion. But you've also had a number of wins in USPKS competition, WKA, both in cadet and junior ranks. Kind of talk about maybe some of the, other than those, like what were kind of other victories or championships that you kind of stand out for you?
Yeah, of course, the Florida Winter Tour was one of my best ones because I won every single final there, both in KA and in Rock Junior. So
and that was this year, correct?
Impressive. Yeah, I only lost one heat race in all 6 races, you could say. So that was a good one. The KA Junior Pro Tour one was big as well, and then obviously the Super Final and Super Nats in 2017. Those two stick out the most.
Let's go back to that. What a little group, what a little time period in your life there to be able to do that. The Rock Cup Super Final, I've been there a couple of times. What an amazing race that is. And talk about your experience at that event.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely the biggest cadet race there is in the world. I think there was 164 karts when I won it, and only 34 go to the final. So you're sending home over 80% of the drivers almost. Exactly. So making the final is an accomplishment in itself, but being able to win it was just incredible.
How much do you think that win and then maybe the confidence and momentum you took out of that win, how much did that affect the way you raced when you got to the Rio at the Super Nats that year?
Yeah, for sure. Going into that race, I was not expecting to win it. I was expecting to I was hoping to make the final. So really? Winning it just boosted my confidence so much that going into Super Nats, I was feeling super good about it. And then I went and won that as well. Of course, I finished 3rd on track, and Brent won it, or Carson won it, I think, on track, but then was later DQ'd. But I still was able to just being able to fight with those two was incredible, because before that I was struggling to win in other competitions. So that just boosted my confidence, and that really is where my karting took off.
That was it, right? Just to be able to have those couple of races where it kind of feeds you. And it's interesting how important confidence is, especially with a young driver like yourself, because all of a sudden you can believe in yourself, right?
Yeah, of course. That's where it all started.
So let's, before we jump into this year and what you were able to do in the Karting Academy Trophy, obviously you as a young driver of developing, you've been working with Gary Willis for so many years, so you have that kind of that, you know, that staple, that backbone that you have, that consistency and continuity. What do you like as a driver? If somebody says, "What's Connor Zilisch like?" What are you as a driver? Are you super aggressive? Like, how would you characterize yourself?
I always like to be in the lead. That's a given. I like being able to control the race. I'm smart but aggressive, and I'm consistent. That's one of my big things. Consistency.
Those are some pretty solid attributes to be able to have as a race car driver for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump to the start of the season, and you think about racing in this Karting Academy Trophy program. Going into it, what kind of expectations did you have for yourself?
I did some OKJ races prior to it, and looking at the entry list, I once again wasn't feeling too hot about it. But once I got in there, I kind of felt more confident about it. And the first race, I did not qualify too well in Audrey. I think I was 9th overall, but starting each heat from 5th, I was able to come through and start pole in the final. And then in the final, I pulled away on the first lap and just consistently pulled two or 3 tenths a lap and was able to win the final by 5 seconds or so.
Would you feel that the momentum and confidence thing kind of worked there as well? Like you said, you didn't qualify that well. I think you were 3rd in the first heat race, and then you won a couple of heat races. You must have went into the main saying, "Hey, I got this thing handled."
Yeah, that's exactly what I was feeling going into it. I knew I had a good shot at it, and I knew I had the speed to do it. I just had to put it together, and I got a good engine for the final, and Everson just pulled away, and it was a good race.
All right, so fast forward now to Belgium at Genk for round number 2. You didn't qualify that well again. What was going on there? But then you were good in the heats again, though.
Yeah, that was even worse. I qualified. I think I started each heat from 11th or so, and I think it was like mixed conditions. We had 3 practice sessions. They were all in the wet, and then we went into qualifying, and it was dry.
Oh, okay.
And that tripped me up a bit, and then we switched engines for the first heat race, and I think I finished 4th or somewhere around there, and I knew then I was fast enough to win. So consistent finishes in the heat race, and I started off 2nd and got to the lead early and kept it.
Now you talked about how you guys changed engines. I know one thing that when we talked with Luca Mars last year during the program, we did the blog with them. It's an engine raffle. It's not, you don't bring your own engine. It's they bring the engine, they bring the cart. So you have your cart, but they swap engines. How often did they swap engines for you during the 3 rounds of racing that you guys did?
Yeah, so they support the engines and the go-karts. And so you get an engine through qualifying, and all the practices, you have the same engine. And then after each heat race, they switch the top 10, and they just mix it all up, and you get a random engine. And basically, after each heat race and right before the final, they switch all the engines. So you can't really complain because it's not like you're stuck with an engine the whole weekend. And so basically always, if you have a bad engine, you know someone else is going to get that engine. So you can't complain.
So you essentially started all 3 main events with different engines from what you did in the heat races.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, that's something that's very interesting. I love about that program because it's essentially like a spec program. You know, everybody's on the same chassis, everybody's on the same engine. It's not like you're going to different engine builders like you see here. Like, oh, my engine sucks, I'm going to go to this engine builder and this or that. It's, hey, this is the factory built engine that you're dealing with. It's. I just love that kind of concept. Do you like that concept, or would you like to do more of that type of racing, or do you like the kind of the open engine style format?
Yeah, I've always liked the raffle engines, like back when the Rotax, and we did that, and NJMP, I think it was, when everyone had the same engine, and you couldn't really complain about it because you basically didn't bring your own engine. So
that's it. Yep.
I've always liked those kinds of races because it just shows you who the better driver is.
So I asked you what your mindset was going into the first round at Adria. What was your mindset going into the finale? Obviously, you have a pretty good point lead. You got that confidence. You know that you can handle these guys. You're trying to go for a championship. Did you start to feel the pressure throughout that weekend?
Yeah, and Lonato, going into the weekend, the championship was already locked. So I was basically just going there to have a good time, and I think I did that. But watching the final from the mechanic stand wasn't that fun.
No, what happened what happened there?
I started off second, which at Lonato, it's always a big disadvantage because you go through the last corner and you're cranking the wheel through the whole last corner.
Yeah.
And the inside row is just going around the outside and carrying so much more speed. So you're basically destined to have a bad start from the outside row. So I think I fell back to fourth or something. And going into the third corner, it's a 90 right. And I was going into the corner and some kid went up my inside, went over the curb and bounced me off, and I hit someone else, and my steering shaft was completely bent, so I had to pull in. But I still won the championship.
I was going to say, I think we all know about racing luck. I'm glad that it happened in the last race and not in the first race, right?
Yeah, I think if it happened in the first race, my confidence wouldn't have been too high. So it's always good to happen in the last race.
One of the things about the Academy Trophy too is the fact that they bring in a lot of different drivers from a lot of different countries. You were the only one for the United States this year. I don't think we had anyone from Canada there. Alex Powell, I think, was from Jamaica, so I think he was maybe one of the only drivers that you might have known or raced against before. What's kind of like the camaraderie around the drivers, because you're all going to the different events kind of together. And so it's kind of like its own little separate group from what are the other programs that are going on.
Yeah, it's very cool. They pick drivers, one driver from I think 50 countries or so, but only 30 were able to make it due to COVID. So some of the competition wasn't there, but it's just a very good experience because the prices aren't too high. So it's not like a super expensive race to do, but I think anyone can do it almost at the price standpoint that it's at. It's just you have to pay for travel. But I think for the 3 races, you pay not much, but it's a very good experience. And all the drivers are able to go around and do that race. And being able to travel with them and make relationships with people from all around the world is just such a good experience.
You know, Connor, speaking of experience, you raced up also while you were there in the European Championships. Can you talk a little bit about how maybe, you know, the experience you had in the Karting Academy Trophy Series, how did that help you when you were running in the European Championship events?
So the only thing that was different from European Championship to Academy is the carburetor. In the Academy, it's a Bull carburetor. So that's the only thing that changes for me. So, of course, that gave me a big advantage to all the other kids that might not have raced the OKJ before. And basically at the front, it was all the European kids that I raced against in all the European Championship and WSK races.
Yep.
So being able to have that kind of experience always helps.
All right, let's talk about this weekend now. Let's talk about the big one. You're going to be running in the World Championships this weekend in Porto Mayo. You raced this past weekend as well, kind of a warm-up race, the Champions of the Future Series. Talk about how the warm-up race went. Did it give you the confidence moving to this weekend? But then, like you said, there's rain coming, so it's going to be really different. But how did this past weekend go?
I tested, I think, 5 days prior to the Champions of the Future race this past weekend, and testing, I was always the fastest. And I felt super good going into the Champions of the Future weekend. And Thursday practice, I was super quick once again. And then I go into qualifying on Friday, and I dropped 7/10 out of nowhere. And we came to the conclusion because after that, we did the 4 heat races on those same tires. And I was still not that fast, but I was able to make my way through because of racecraft. And in the 5th heat, we put new tires on. And I came from 21st and finished 3rd in that heat race.
Okay.
So we came to the conclusion that it was the tires.
All
and
right.
I got a bad set of tires, which some people had been complaining about 2 weeks prior during testing. They would put new tires on, and then they'd have used tires, and they'd put new tires on, and they'd do the same time or maybe 1/10 slower. So there's some bad sets of tires out there.
All right. So let's look forward to this coming weekend. You've had time on the racetrack. You obviously have a lot of confidence going in, but before the show, we talked about it. You mentioned it a bit at the start as well. It's essentially going to rain all weekend. Potentially, maybe a little sun, potentially, or at least non-rain on Saturday. Is that the kind of thing that scares you, or are you like, yeah, bring the rain on? I'll be happy to go racing in the rain.
Yeah, I think I'm good at racing in the rain. It changes from track to track, but I'm feeling good about it. So
all right.
I don't think anyone has been testing in the rain here, so it's not going to be like someone has an unfair advantage. So going into it, I think I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Give us some insight on the team that you're running with, the equipment you're using too, just so those maybe you're watching from home will be able to follow on and see how Connor does this weekend. What are you on?
I'm racing with Ward Racing. They're all Swedish, so they all speak good English, and that's one of the things that's hard to find here in Europe, is because most of the teams are based out of Italy, so the English sometimes isn't the best. But with Ward Racing, I think every single mechanic speaks English, so it's just it's like a family basically, and I've been with them for over a year now, so.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's David, do you want to kind of give an overview of the weekend that's going on for those that may want to follow along throughout the weekend online and watch the races?
Yeah, the event officially begins on Friday. You're going to have 2 practice sessions and qualifying. Saturday will be a warm-up along with 4 rounds of heat races. And then Sunday with a warm-up, the 5th round of heat races for OK Junior category, and then the main event. So essentially, those 5 rounds of heat races will determine the 34 drivers, I think. Is it 34? Yeah, 34 drivers.
34, 36.
Yeah, it's one or the other. I can never remember which one, but I think it's 36. We'll go to yeah, we'll go to the main event. So, and this isn't your first time being at the World Championships, is it?
Yeah, last year was my first time, and that went pretty well for my first time racing it. I think I finished 24th in the final or so, but I qualified 13th, which was really good for me.
How much is it being the second time you've been there, Connor? Does it change the way maybe your mindset going in, or maybe the nerves that you have going in that you've been there before?
Yeah, I know that it's not much different from the European Championship. It's all, the top 20 is all the same people, so it always changes from race to race, the top 20. And sometimes you could flip the top 20. You could throw them in a bag and then spit them out, and they'll all come out differently every single race. So I know that it'll be the same top 20 or 25 drivers that I'll be racing against at every other race. So I'm not too nervous about it, but I think I'll be able to do pretty well.
Well, we'll set the alarm clock early for this one to get up to find out what you do for sure. Hey, listen, one thing I want to ask you before I ask you a little about your plans for the future. You had a chance to go to the Formula One race, I hear.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So Gary got me tickets with Williams, because Gary used to work for Nicholas Latifi.
Yep.
So on a short term's notice, Gary texted Mr. Latifi, and he was able to get us tickets with Williams, basically hospitality, but we weren't allowed in the paddock due to COVID. So we had a spot right above the pit garages, and it was a very nice track, very good experience, and I'd kill to do it again, but I'm probably not going to have this opportunity because I was sitting at the hotel here and there's nothing to do here. Yeah. So basically it just fell in the right time, right good opportunity, and it was just amazing.
That's awesome. I'm glad you had a chance to enjoy that. All right, let's talk about the future, what you have in front of you right now. Well, let's talk about what your plans are next year karting wise. Do you know what you want to do? Are you going to do some more racing in Europe, or are you going to be back doing a lot of racing in the US?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be more based in the US next year, just finishing out my last year in karting, maybe doing some stuff in cars. Hopefully I'll make it over for a few races over in Europe, but I'm not planning on it. And also with Mazda, I'm going to be in Road Atlanta next week, or maybe 2 weeks from now, with the Mazda shootout. Yeah. And hopefully I'll be one of the 2 drivers selected for that next year, and I'll be able to get some seat time.
And you're making the move to senior too, right?
Yeah, at the end of this year, hopefully.
What do you think? What do you think about that? What are your thoughts about going to senior?
It'll be good to race against. Yeah, it'll be good to race against some of the top drivers in America, Norberg, all them, and I've always wanted to race against all of them. So hopefully it'll be some fun.
I look forward to it. That'll be really cool. Last but not least, what are the long-term plans? Where do you want to go, Connor? What's if you're able to have the successful career, where do you want to see yourself in like 5 years, 10 years?
Definitely IMSA or IndyCar. I'll either want to follow in Tyler Gonzalez and Tyler Maxson, do what they're doing in the TCR cars. Hopefully they'll be in IMSA soon, or Road to Indy. It's one of the hot ones right now. All the drivers are headed there. So one of those 2, and I'd be super, super grateful to make it to either one of them.
Well, I'll tell you this. I spent a lot of time at the IndyCar paddock with the Road to Indy, and a lot of those drivers I've watched come through, and not many of them have the same kind of resume and talent that you have. So I think you're definitely on the right track for sure. David, any final questions for our man Connor here?
No, other than, good luck this weekend, and obviously good luck at the Mazda shootout. But, again, as we talked about in the opening, it's great to see the U.S. drivers. You'll have Ugo Chukwu there as well, along with both Cole and Carson Morgan, and then Ari Demejian racing in senior as well. So nice. I'm sure there'll be a chance maybe to get all five of you together for photos. So we'll have to see if anybody is able to do that throughout the weekend.
Yeah. I think I'll be able to sort that one out. I'll try and get us all together.
Awesome. Connor, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's late over there in Portimao. We appreciate you staying up and chatting with us back here in the U.S. But, dude, congratulations on all the success. The Karting Academy Trophy, well done. And, dude, carry that American flag this weekend. We want to see you on top of the box in Portugal as well.
Will do. Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. It was good being here.
Connor Zilisch, folks, again, the 2020 FIA Karting Academy Trophy champion, David. That was fantastic. Hey, he's got more opportunities to add maybe another little feather in the cap this weekend as well.
Yeah, he went in a 2-year stint, as we talked about, 17 and 19. I think he's changed that with the 2020 success that he's had. As he talked, Florida Winter Tour, 2 championships there, was going to be, did 2 wins at the USPKS in July before he went over to Europe, and then adding the Academy Trophy. Certainly a world championship victory or podium is going to be a great way to kind of put a pin on the 2020 season.
And yeah, you do that and you wrap up his junior season as well. We saw Luca Mars come into senior this year, David, and be, a force from right out of the get-go as a rookie senior. And I think Connor is going to be one of those guys. He likes to lead. He said, I want to see him out leading in front of Norberg and Jarsakrak and Myers and all the big dogs as well.
And they're very similar builds too, because they've grown inches over the last year. Connor was a little bit shorter, just kind of like what Luca used to be, and now they're both almost 6 foot tall.
Luca's almost as tall as his dad now. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah. So it'll be cool to see that.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into the broadcast here on our EKN YouTube channel. Do us a big favor. If you can press the like button, press the thumbs up button on this show. It obviously gives us a better rating in YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, click the bell button so that are notified when we go live next time. Lots more stuff coming. I've got, I think, 2 or 3 more shows next week as well here on EKN. So we want to make sure you tune in. David, anything to wrap up the show?
No, just excited to watch what Connor and the rest of the Team USA are going to be able to do this weekend in Portugal.
Yeah, no doubt about it, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to EKN Face to Face. He's David Cole. I'm Rob Howden. Book it.